Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting live from our Sanctum Sanctorum in bountiful Bakersfield, California. This is the Sixth Sense Society. I'm your host, Krista, here with our producer, Michael, and today you are tuning in to Spell It Out, Magic, Reflections, and Shadows, where I take a topic and run with it. This is our first show back after a month hiatus, and we're excited to be back. My topic today is going to be a lot of fun for me. It is penny magic, and I will explain what it is after these announcements by Michael.
Hi, everybody. Yes, welcome back. And we are in our last rush to the end of the year. Hard to believe, 6 seasons already coming to an end. It's really exciting. We've got some great stuff coming up. Next week, we have a show called Tarot Alchemy, a Kabbalah-inspired guide to reading the cards. And it is a celebration of our upcoming release of our book in October by the same name. So please tune in for that. We're going to tell you all about it. And we have some great guests coming up in September as well, including a brand new guest, Ronnie Pontiac, who's an astrologer. He was very involved with the Philosophical Research Society with Manly Hall. And we're very excited to be hosting him at the end of the month, and all kinds of other great stuff coming up. So get all the information on our website, sixthsensesociety.com, SIXTH, all spelled out. While you're there, if you can afford to, buy us a coffee on Ko-Fi. It helps us cover our cost a little bit, but the main thing, go to YouTube, click like and subscribe, help us grow our show, and tell your friends about us and everything else. And that's what we really love. So don't want to take up more time because Spell It Out is a short show. So with that, I'm going to kick it back to you. So take it away, Krista.
All right. Thank you, Michael. And I did want to remind people, I think it's this Saturday, right, Michael, our virtual meet and greet. If people want to sign up for that on our website, where you can just come and hang out with us. And I believe it's 10 a.m. to noon Pacific time. So penny magic. I believe I might have coined, pun intended, this kind of magic. And at least I've never heard about it in any books before, though I'm sure that people have experienced it once I talk about what it is. And even though it's going to be, it's sort of centered around the concept of the penny, there's more to it than that. But I like that idea of the penny being the main title for a variety of reasons. I would say the beginning of my penny magic journey was a dream that I had. And Michael and I had moved to California. And I think this part I'm not quite sure. I'd have to go back and find it in the journal. But I think I was talking about the dream when we were walking. But if I wasn't, it was like a couple days before. But in the dream, we are walking on Lincoln Boulevard, or I'm pretty sure it was. No, it wasn't Lincoln Boulevard, but it was a real street, like in somewhere in L.A. And I'm going by this payphone when payphones, by the way, were still being used, and all of a sudden there was all these coins just falling out of the payphone in the dream, just tons and tons and tons. So I woke up and thought, well, that was a cool dream, but what does that mean? So. Anyway, I did tell Michael, and either I told him before or a little bit before, or while we were walking one evening late on Lincoln Boulevard, we were together, which I think is part of our penny magic is doing this together, is I was talking about, and all of a sudden there was a payphone in this alley, and I heard this clunk, clunk. And I kid you not, there was no one there, and these coins fell out. Now, granted, it was not as much as in my dream. And I was like, what in the world? I didn't really understand why I had the dream and what it meant. But it opened up this form of magic that has begun to become even more interesting since we've moved to Bakersfield, California. So I would say in the beginning, I didn't really pay a lot of attention to the way I am, the penny magic idea. But the main idea of the penny magic is that you are walking somewhere in the world, in the real world, and you find randomly pennies and quarters and dimes and bills, and that they come in either synchronistic ways, or they come in ways that you are surprised by in places, the amount of them. But I have been always the kind of person that will pick up even fake dollar bills because I feel it's good luck. And that's one of the things about the penny magic idea. If you think about it as a kid, most of, I don't know if kids nowadays do, but when I was growing up, it was like penny for your thought. Or my favorite one is find a penny, pick it up, and all the day you'll have good luck. So even that part is sort of a magical idea. And I think, thought of that being a good luck thing whereas some people feel pennies are kind of a burden. So, and I guess they are if you want to roll them or something, it is kind of a lot of work to roll it and take it to the bank. And I know there are people that think we should get rid of the penny because it costs more to actually make them. So, but I had this view of pennies from the beginning because what I sort of heard as a child, I think. And then I also have a story, which, when we were, I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade, we had this owl piggy bank, and we would put $50 in it. They were Kennedy $50, and we'd say, someday we'll move to Ireland. Now, I told my dad that story, and I don't know who started it, and I don't know why we did it. And sure enough, it worked. We ended up moving to Ireland in a really interesting and unusual way. And I think that also made an imprint on using coins for magic and also banks, which you can also include in the penny magic idea. So for us, I think it started at the beginning of August. Since we've been here, maybe it was around May, the first, sort of big penny thing happened. And Michael and I, we have this evening walk, and we basically walk the same route in a neighborhood where often you see no one walking. It's a very quiet neighborhood, and there's not a lot of traffic during the day. There's not a lot of reason to find anything on the sidewalk. Whereas if I'm, in Venice, walking around, particularly around the oceanfront walk, you have more things that you can find because there are more people passing through. So I think the first time that we sort of noticed this being a little different from the penny magic of before was we were walking sort of right in front of an area where there was practically no one living, and there was like a whole bunch of coins, and they were all pennies, and I believe it was like 18, and it was a full moon, and so that's the moon card. So immediately I got excited, and I think that we still didn't really turn it into sort of the magical game that we have now until sort of later. And I think it was really Michael's idea to sort of make it a real focus, like every night, let's see what we can find. And so I know I started recording it finally, which I would encourage you when you have any kind of synchronicities, because this is a form of synchronicity and flow, that you somehow find a way to keep a record. It is difficult when you have a lot or you're doing it every day. So what I've been doing is using my Facebook account, and I don't care if people like it or not. It keeps a record, and I can, take a little picture, put a little note on it, what I think it is. I've been keeping a record since August 3rd, and there's been only 1 or 2 days we've had like a shutout, like we found absolutely nothing. And what we've been finding is really interesting because it's sort of moving to another level of magic. And so basically you can sort of look at it initially as, okay, I'm in the flow. This is synchronistic. Like any synchronicity, you can then examine what's going on in your life, what you were thinking or talking about, like at that moment when you saw it. Because one of the things I found about the penny magic, it does seem like the coins will sometimes suddenly appear. And it's more like the experience of it. You'll be walking and suddenly you see it. And what's interesting is we've started to see them even in the dark, when it's dark, which is really hard, or even in sort of muddy water, we've started finding coins. Now, it could be that we have better focus, but it still has that experience of kind of delight, which is part of all magic. But one of the things that my theories is that this could be a practice of materialization. Now, you usually think of only the yogis being able to materialize something out of thin air. So there's stories of yogis, or I think Blavatsky has there's some notoriety around that. But what if because of the times we are in, it's easier for ordinary magical people? Like I would call myself sort of a normal magical person. I'm not extraordinary. But I've been doing it for a while, and I have some idea of how magic works. And what if it's easier now? And what if this is a really fun and simple way to begin the practice of not manifestation, because I thought about using that word, but it's more materialization. And because I said sometimes it really does seem like they come out of nowhere, the coins. And just because of where we find them, there's one place we have found it twice. But most of the time it's almost always in a different place. And as I said, the peculiar thing is there's just not a lot of people walking around dropping anything. So even garbage is not too bad around here. So I thought this is a way to test magic. And I would say what I like about it, as I said earlier, is it involves the real world. And a lot of magic, it does seem like it's more internal, or you're in your home, or you're limited to a certain area. I'm doing my circle magic. And sometimes, certainly that is really important to have that sort of practice of magic. But this is where you get to interact with the world in a very modern and visceral way, and a very exciting way. So that's what I like about this. Is what I'm beginning to call penny magic, in that this day-to-day simple form of connecting with the world and yourself, because I think one of the dangers facing all of us is being consumed by the virtual world. We all have that as a possibility. And yet the world is still there for us, the physical world, in a very vibrant and a beautiful way. And I feel that that's very important to practice magic like that. So that's what I like about it. It's very accessible. Now, one of the fun things about the pennies is, now obviously you can add pennies up to look for numbers that are repetitive. You can look at where they're coming from. You can also look at what else? We got one recently that was slightly green on one side, and it really looked green. It must have been sort of like some sort of lime or rust or something. And I thought it was amusing because I'm practicing a form of the 21 Taras, and green Tara is the center of it. So I thought that was a message from her. Generally, they seem to be positive messages, but we have discovered what we call the setup penny. And that one is where the penny is in a position that if you go to reach for it, you could get hit by a bus or a bike, or it's dangerous. And so we never pick those up. We're like, nope, that's a setup penny. So they don't happen very often. So we've started to see these different kinds of pennies and call them different names. There's another sort of, I don't know what to call this one, where it does seem to be coming out of muck. Like it's like a little bit of water or dirt by the curb, and like a lotus, So I think that one is sort of an interesting one too. And then the other thing is that we also find sometimes unusual foreign coins. And we found one recently that was a Philippine coin, and it ends up being worth maybe $4 or $5 or something. And we're like, well, why would anyone drop this coin? So that's a new, I think we have found foreign money before. Maybe not so much. We found Canadian coins, but not like we're finding some of the foreign coins here. So it's starting to have this sort of different dimension to it. Like all magic, I'm beginning to think this is a very interesting, multi-layered form of magic. And we will also include other treasures if it feels like a treasure. So we found this sort of, I guess it's like a little copper bracelet, which reminded me of Venus. And then Michael found these bouncy balls that almost look like little planets. And at the time I thought a very simple explanation is we're bouncing back, and we really are, from many things, from our move, from Michael's heart attack, from all kinds of things where we are beginning to bounce back. And so I thought it was a very playful kind of thing to find. And again, I don't know when I've last seen one of those little rubber balls. They're not that common in general, and it's not something everyone's playing with all the time. And we found 2 of them on different occasions. But it's really great if you can keep some kind of record. I don't know what I'm going to do with my record. I have some of my previous penny magic through the years. I have put ones that if they were like really a lot, like I found one time a bag of coins on a curb once, and I counted it out, and I think it was like, I don't know, it was like 182 or something crazy. And the other thing I generally do with the coins, not all of them, but like the pennies especially, I have a little bank that's special for the pennies I find. And in general, having little magical banks is a very common thing, I think, in the magical world for any kind of money magic. So people have, you know, very elaborate type banks, or they'll have fun banks. And that is really a very... I think it's just a very fun thing to do in general. But what I think about penny magic, I think it is a form of money magic, because on the one level, when we find these coins, our business does seem to be flourishing more. But what I'm beginning to see is that it has this connection to Pluto. And I only thought about it this morning. And the reason I thought about it, well, one was the idea that you have to pay Charon to cross the river Styx to get to the underworld. You have to pay coins. And then also the idea that sometimes coins are put on people's eyes, you know, when they die. And I think some of the messages, and the third thing is that one of the things I've talked about in my Pluto videos, which I'm doing a deeper dive into Pluto moving into Aquarius, but I'm kind of doing it gradually. So you can go back and see some of my earlier shows and spell it out, talking about Pluto and its myth, because I believe and think that Pluto in Aquarius is going to change our views about Pluto and what it really means. And so I was thinking about the reason it's connected to Pluto is because Pluto can represent treasure and wealth, literally underground treasure. And so, and it's coming up, you know, from the underground. These pennies are on the sidewalk, they're on the ground. I mean, sometimes you can find them in places that are elevated too, for sure. So I thought this is a very Plutonian form of magic. And that got me really excited too. And I thought this is really going to be interesting where it goes. And the most recent sort of crazy synchronicity we had was sometimes I will find something, or Michael will find something too, in the daytime. So we usually are focused on our evening walk and finding something then, but sometimes we'll randomly find something in the daytime and we'll sort of include it in the whole day. And I had found, coming back after dropping my dad, or bringing my dad to our apartment on Sunday, I found this quarter, and it was very shiny. And I looked on the back for some reason, which I don't always do, and there were these two bats. And it was one of these sort of commemoration quarters, that a series that was done that basically is connected to nature and parks and ecological preservation. So this one was connected to a park in Samoa, I think. And it has 2020 on it. And interesting enough, it was minted when the coronavirus started. And then it wasn't intended to be connected to that idea that maybe it started with a bat. It was completely coincidental. But what was interesting about the bat was that that's one of Michael's main totems. And I thought that was really cool. And we were talking about it. And it turns out some of the bat ones are worth a little bit of money. So I started thinking like, maybe my guardian angel heard me when I said, how come I'm only finding pennies? They're not worth much. So I thought, oh, that's nice. You know, the guardian angel has like, you know, told me that, wait a minute, some of the coins may be worth a little bit of money. So anyway, that's not the reason why we do it. But then later that night, again, I'd never seen the bat quarter before. And later that night, I decided to look at the backs of a couple quarters in my purse. And it was the purse that I carry when we walk. And one of them was the bat quarter. And I was like, what does that mean? It's like, so I thought about it and how the bat represents also the shaman's death and the true self emerging. And I thought this was a really good omen because of our book coming out. And we've been working on this for so long on so many levels. And that it's just, you know, we have this rebirth that we have been going through is what I would say. So I felt it was a pretty good message overall. And so we're starting to see that penny magic can have a lot of dimensions and details. And it's something, as I said, you can just integrate into your life in such an easy and natural way. I wanted to add, going back to Pluto, one of the things that I've already felt about Pluto is being Pluto in Aquarius, or just Pluto in general. I think there is some real mistakes how people view Pluto based on the mythology. So for instance, there are people that use the word power with Pluto, and Pluto does not have power in our world. Pluto has power in the underworld, and that's where Pluto rules. I think better words for Pluto in our world are, like, if you want to look at sort of the wounded side of Pluto, is isolation, loneliness, rejection. Well, not rejection. Oh, obsession. Yes, obsession. That's a good one. And these are words I've seen other astrologers use. And one of the things I wanted to share again, this beautiful quote from James Hillman's book on the dream and the underworld, which features a lot about Hades. And he says that, and Hades is, of course, a form of Pluto. Hades is not an absence, but a hidden presence, even an invisible fullness. And I really feel this connects to the penny magic, like, because there's this, every time we find something, there's this kind of excitement, this sort of wonder that we feel. And it doesn't get old is how I see it. And then he also thinks that Hades has a connection to all psychic events. And again, he's talking a little more psychological, but he's right. So I feel that this penny magic is more connected to Plutonian gods and goddesses. So it could be some version of them, maybe, whichever one you prefer. And as I said, I really just thought about that this morning when I was thinking about it. So, and then the idea that, again, going back to, not only is this a chance to see flow and synchronicity, but it's a chance to see the possibility that we as humans can materialize things. And my dad is the one that sort of pointed that out. And I'd sort of thought about it, and I thought, nah, and I was like, okay, that is possible. So that's sort of what I wanted to share so far about the penny magic. And I probably will come back to it at some point and let you know what else we have been discovering, because I'm sure I've left out some other really good stories about it. But I did want to get back to the idea of sharing a spell with you on Spell It Out. And I first thought, okay, maybe I'll do some sort of prosperity spell with the penny magic. And I thought, well, no, I'm going to do something that helps you to have more flow and synchronicity in life. And also because Michael had brought up the idea of that there's a lot of, people getting really, just a lot of aggression and a lot of tension because of the elections coming up. And so I looked in my little witches brew good spells under the peace of mind one. I have one is just all about peace of mind. And I thought, well, peace of mind is good for all of us, but it's definitely a good thing to have to put you in a good state to do magic. And what I've been wanting to do more is, again, help people to have simple things they can do that are effective, because many people have busy lives. And I learned this from Thich Nhat Hanh. His books on meditation, he really recognized and did not make you feel bad if you have a very busy life. You can do these particular 3-minute practices, 5-minute practices. You can do them anywhere. And I used to do some of them when I was, really, I had to work or I was sick or something. And I found they were really effective. And he really supported the idea that the busy Westerner or anyone can still do these practices, and it really is effective. So I want to say that it doesn't matter if you can't do an hour of something a day. What I think is important is having a daily practice of some kind, even if it's only 5 minutes. So this one is a lot of fun because this involves tea. And I'm big on teas. I really like teas, and I want to learn more about the medicinal side of teas. This one's called Chamomile Calm. And I'm going to read what she wrote in the book, because she's a lovely writer. She says, will inspire you sweet dreams, calm your nerves, soothe and tone your skin, and ease a tummy ache. Chamomile is a symbol of energy and patience, sacred to the Saxons and treasured by both Egyptians and Romans. This most loyal of garden herbs is the flower of equilibrium. So now the way one brews tea, there's a whole like way you can brew tea. I think that you get more from the tea. I know Susan Weed talks about the infusion method, but this is she doesn't really go into the brewing of the tea, so don't worry about if you just use a tea bag. But she says while you're brewing this tea, to chant this particular medieval charm. With bounteous hand and the helpful balm, O scentful chamomile, most verdurous herb, bring me health and heart. I meant to look that up, verdurous. And it sounds like it's lush is what I would say. And then you drink your tea, take in some of the steam, and you will have increased insight, she says, for the rest of the day. So chamomile, the simple chamomile tea can help you. But I love the idea in general of doing some kind of a chant. I would say you could also substitute a mantra of some kind. Maybe you would pick one if it was, for instance, Tara, one of the white Tara mantras, since she is known to bring peace and calm, or some other sort of prayer that is peaceful for you. And the idea of actually speaking and chanting does seem to be really very powerful for magic. And that is the other thing we have found with the penny magic is while we're walking, sometimes, not all the time, we talk about our dreams and goals out loud. And I'd forgotten that sort of trick in magic is not just speaking it out loud, but being able to speak it out loud with somebody. And I remember when Michael and I first started our journey together, we would do that a little bit, just as a conversation. And so I have found that also will enhance it. So you want to add another layer to the penny magic, you can do that. You can definitely do penny magic on your own. And so, like I said, Michael and I both have found things away from each other that are really cool. But I think that doing it with someone else is really a great idea. And I was even thinking like, wow, you could teach kids penny magic. How fun that would be for kids. And you could probably have, 2, 3, a little group of friends that maybe go out together and do this so-called sort of practice of magic. And it's just a modern way that's easy and effective of bringing magic into our daily world. I think everyone gets a kick if they find even a quarter or a nickel or a dime. In fact, I remember we were going for a walk one day and there was a woman putting up a yard sale sign across from us. And she looked down and she says, "Oh, there's a nickel. I found a nickel." And at the time I thought, that's our nickel. That's what I actually thought for a second. And then I was like, no, that's her nickel. She found it. And I hope it brings her luck is what I thought. And then later on, of course, we found our own. So, don't worry if someone else finds a nickel first. They're out there for you too. This isn't really a competition. So go ahead, try it. See if you can have some of your own unique experiences with what penny magic is and what it brings to you, what treasures you find and where you find them, and if you find them in groups or single. I hope you enjoyed this. Join us next time as we continue to explore the esoteric and the obscure together. Have a magical week.